Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. That's right. We're going to have fun today as we do every day here on the show. I'm Ray Flowers of fantasyguru.com. You can find my work on social medias at the Ray Flowers, and you can find me here with you every day, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, doing Fantasy Sports Daily. Again, welcome to the show. Tell a friend. Obviously, this is a free show. Find it at fantasyguru.com, the Elite Plus tab at the top. Find it in your local podcast network. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily. And of course, on YouTube at youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. You hear the show every day. You see the show every day. If you're on YouTube, you can watch the show and listen to the show live. You can comment as well. You can also do that on Facebook. You can't comment if you're on Twitter X, but you can watch on Twitter X as well. So we have a variety of ways for you to watch the show live. And then, of course, cataloged after that for those of you that want to listen over and over again because of the greatness that we share on the show. Let's jump right into it. Today, we got a big day coming on. If I can get the, there we go, the technology to work. Big day today. Right now, we're going to talk some baseball to lead things off. A lot of pitching here at the top. Paul Skenes, yay, finally. Dylan Cease, Nick Pivetta, Chris Sale, Hayden Wesneski. What's going on in the Tigers bullpen? Reese Olson, Kyle Bradish. What's going on in the Orioles bullpen? Mitchell Parker. Then some offensive players, Bregman, Nathaniel, Lowe, Elly, Cruz, kind of a check in there. On the injury front, only a couple of names, which is good. 3 pitchers and a hitter, Snell, Dunning, Cabrera, who we talked about yesterday, and then Jorge Soler. And then we're going to have Russell Clay stop by. And Russell's going to talk to us a little bit. He was on the Elite Sports Show yesterday, which is on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. He was on there yesterday, and he did such a great job there. We brought him back here for you today. Looks like, we don't know this for certain, but it looks like Jeff Mans is probably going to miss the show again today, so I'll probably be hosting that show again for another 3 hours today. We're going to hope to get Tyler Beaker on that show again, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. And then the Elite Sports Show tonight, 8 to 10 Eastern, myself and Justin Fensterman doing a lot of things. If you notice me looking out the side, we got a new bench for the squirrels, and it took them a while to figure it out. I'm going to take a picture of this as it's going. It took them a while to figure it out because it was in kind of it's got a – I'll post a photo of this because it's kind of hard to describe, but there's a little bench where there's like a flap and the little things come out. Anyway, it took them like a day to find it, and now they're devouring it. The food is everywhere. The squirrels are going to town. I think I'm going to have a lot of squirrels passed out in a food coma. They're decimating what's in there because they are a hungry bunch. Anyway, so that's what I was looking at. Sorry about that. When we talk to Russell, we're going to talk about a myriad of topics as we did with him on the show yesterday. We're going to focus a lot on dynasty leagues and the value of players because that's Russell's number one thing is the dynasty league. Obviously, he answers all the questions in fantasy football. He knows what's going on, but he's our forward-looking guy. He's always in Discord over at fantasyguru.com as well. If you're looking to get the football package, you can see it right there on the screen. $19.99 is the franchise mode. That gets you all of our coverage of the NFL draft. That gets you all of our coverage of the draft. So it gets you everything up to date. Where are we at? What's going on? How do we value all these young players with their new landing spots and all that? Tyler and the crew, part of that package over at fantasyguru.com, the off-season franchise mode. All right, let's dive into things here today and get going here. Paul Skenes, this news broke when I was on the SiriusXM show yesterday, finally. And we talked about this with Paul Skenes. There's no value. There's been no value to him pitching in the minor leagues. The Pirates finally say, yeah, we agree with you, Ray. You're a smart guy, and he's coming up. So Paul Skenes is going to be promoted. He's going to start Saturday against the Cubs, and we'll see. It's unclear if he's pitching 7-inning games. It's unclear if he's throwing 100 pitches. We don't know. We've talked a lot about this. We've talked about Jared Jones and how he's been handled by the Pirates too. So the good news is Paul Skenes will be up. Now, whether that means they're skipping starts, 4 innings here, 50 pitches there, we don't know. Okay. But the good news, the great news is that he's no longer going to be blowing away minor leaguers that are utterly dominated by him. He'll be up for the big challenge at the major league level. So Saturday against the Cubs, the obvious caveats, how do players perform the first time up at the big league level, the pressures, the media, the size of the scope of the game, all those things are in play. I have Paul Skenes in one league. In the league I have him in, we can only change our hitters midweek. We can't change our pitchers midweek, so I can't activate him anyway. It's up to you if you think that's a wise thing. I don't have a problem getting him active. I also don't know he's going to throw 5 or 6 innings like I'm saying here, but hey, man, it's Paul Skenes. We've been waiting, let it rip. Dylan Cease has let it rip, and he's been terrific this year. And yesterday against the Cubs, season best, 12 strikeouts. He had 7 shutout innings in the effort. He allowed a single hit, and he is starting to look an awful lot like not last year's Dylan Cease, but a couple years ago Dylan Cease when he was, a dominant force in the real world in the fantasy space. He dropped his ERA to 2.19 in the effort. The WHIP is now 0.75. And I think the most intriguing thing is not the 60 strikeouts in 49 innings, not the ERA, not even the WHIP. The most intriguing thing is the 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, which is not a stupendous number, but for him, it's really good. And that's really been the issue for a lot of these hard throwers that rack up the strikeouts, like Dylan Cease. The big issue is, the ability to control the strike zone. And he's controlling the strike zone right now. And, we can handle 16 walks in 49 innings, right? 1 every 3 innings, basically. That's a league average number. If he continues to do that, he will have success. And whether this next statement is true or not, it's logical. He is, at least for now, one of the top arms in baseball in terms of durability. He's going to throw 175 innings, and he's going to give you 200 strikeouts. He does it every year. And those numbers could be 190 and 240, right? Like, he is one of the best at throwing innings and racking up strikeouts. No reason to think that's going to change. Of course, injuries happen to everybody. We know that. But he's really settled in with his new team in San Diego. It's a much better environment than Chicago. It's a much better, I'm biased, but I think it's a great place to live. It's a great environment. He's rocking and rolling. And he pitched terrific yesterday, which is kind of the cherry on top of what has been an excellent start to the season for Dylan Cease. Continue to watch that walk total for the real key. Nick Pivetta returned, and we talked about Pivetta a lot. Pivetta was back in action yesterday, and there were some pluses and some minuses for his effort. On the plus side, he was able to pitch. On the negative side, kind of everything else. Look, you go into Atlanta and you start against the Braves in Atlanta. That's rough. Like, that's just a rough, situation. 3 home runs he allowed. That's not ideal. He only struck out 1 guy in the 4 innings. Okay. Good news is he came out of the game and we didn't have any reports about setbacks or the physical situation being messy or anything like that. So I'm going to assume everything is okay. Again, it was a rough outing. Not surprised. The matchup was a very difficult one for even the most seasoned and rolling pitcher, let alone a guy who's been on the injured list for a month. So good news there with Pivetta. He was out there. The negative news, again, the performance. But I think that, I was asked this yesterday, like, what do we expect from Pivetta? Well, from Pivetta the rest of the way, we expect him to, throw 5 innings, 6 innings every time out, to get you 6 strikeouts every time out, and to give up 2 or 3 runs. Like, he's a guy that could rack up a bunch of quality starts. He's admitted earlier, and we talked about it here on the show, he's going to throw 100% until he can't throw 100% no mo. So he'll just go out there and give it his all. And if his arm goes, his arm goes. But he's going to balls to the wall, as I said yesterday on the Sirius show. And it's a good first step getting back to being that guy for the Red Sox. They really need him in that starting rotation. Speaking about a guy that's gotten back to being his former self, Chris Sale. Now, Chris Sale could have made the Hall of Fame if he had been able to stay healthy, right? Because he had a run of about 6 years there where he was arguably the best left-handed pitcher in baseball, not named Clayton Kershaw, right? Problem is, it's that quintessential, I got 6 years and then, there's not enough elite level seasons for him. Doesn't change the fact that even through the injuries the last handful of years, when on the hill, he's been very good, very effective. Now, the last time he's thrown 105 innings at the big league level, 105, was 2019. That is forever ago. Didn't throw an official pitch in 2020. 2021 and 22 didn't hit 50 innings at the big league level combined. Last year, he threw 102 innings. So the fact he's at 42 innings right now, he's already tied his second highest mark of the previous 3 years, right? Or previous 4 years. How long is he going to last? And the answer is none of us know. But what we do know is that he is rolling. He had a 7-inning 1-run effort against Cleveland a couple starts ago. His last start prior to last night was a 1-run effort against Seattle. And then last night against his former team, the Red Sox, 6 shutout innings, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts. And it's hard to pitch much better than that. His last 3 starts, he's walked 2 guys. He struck out 25 batters in 18 innings, and he's allowed 2 runs. He's killing it. And while this is not peak Chris Sale, I mean, it's not. The numbers still are very, very supportive of a comment being he's pretty close to where he used to be, which is crazy. Now, obviously, the question that matters most is how many innings is he going to throw, because that's all that really matters. We've gotten what we've gotten to date. What are we going to get moving forward? I could sit here and break a bunch of things down, but I'm just going to be honest with you. Let's be honest with each other, right? None of us know. The recent history, like the last 5 years, say we're halfway to where he's going to be this year if everything goes right. If things go horribly wrong, it could be the next start kind of thing, right? Let's not go there. Let's hope that he throws 130 innings this year. Also remember that if there's like the Braves aren't stupid. They know that he hasn't thrown 150 innings since 2018. They know he hasn't thrown 105 innings since 2019. They're not planning on him throwing 150 innings this year. They're not, because they are planning on going to the playoffs, and they want him as a weapon in the playoffs, whether it's out of the bullpen or in the rotation. They need Chris Sale then. So how do they manage this? Do they skip a start here and there? That's going to happen. Do they put him on the injured list with an injury that's not really an injury? Possibly. Do they use him in a scenario where he starts, but he's only going 3 innings a couple of times? Maybe. So we're going to have to watch for signs of how the Braves are going to manage him, because there's just no way he's going to be able to throw 6 innings 30 times, right? It's just not going to happen. So we'll see. But he is in quite the groove right now and pitching fantastically. Hayden Wesneski, we talked about him on the show. Wrote about him last year in the Breakout Pitcher of the Year piece and said, I like this guy. Talked about him in the preseason this year, but he didn't have a role. Well, he allowed 3 runs in 6 innings and a loss to the Padres against Dylan Cease, but he pitched very well, had a quality start. And so now it's, I love the skills here. We talked about this a lot with him. The question really is, what is the Cubs' long-term plan? Those squirrels, by the way, are still killing it over there. What are the Cubs' long-term plan with this starting rotation? Because Steele, Imanaga, Tyone, and Assad are in the rotation. Like, that's just how that's going to be. What do they do with Kyle Hendricks when he's ready to go from his back issue? Do they say, look, you've been around forever, you've had success forever, even though you've really struggled of late, we're putting you back in the rotation because we don't know if you can be effective out of the bullpen. I think that's a very fair position to take with Kyle Hendricks. They don't have options for Kyle Hendricks, so when he's healthy, he's going to be on the big league roster. They're going to have to release him. What about Jordan Wicks? He's got a forearm issue, and we'll see how he's doing, but he was pitching effectively. What happens when Jordan Wicks is healthy? So still not out of the woods with Hayden Wesneski in terms of him being a definitive starter for this team in the rotation. But each start he makes, each successful outing he has, the opportunity for him to continue doing that grows, obviously. But we went through the dynamics of what the Cubs are dealing with. We'll see what the decision is ultimately made. I think at this point, if he's still on the waiver wire, and he probably is in a ton of leagues, take the shot. Even because there's a chance that he sticks in the rotation and makes 18 starts the rest of the way. There's a chance that he makes 6 starts the rest of the way, and it's kind of like, But even with the good effort yesterday, it's a quality start. It wasn't dynamic, right? Everyone's going to be talking about Dylan Cease. Is he going to be overly costly? I struggle to think the answer is yes. So I think he's, again, someone that should be on your radar. Though, be cautious, because if you're looking at the schedule, his next start is against the Braves. So if you're on the fence, maybe that pushes you over the fence or keeps you on this side of the fence, I guess. Be very cautious with adding Wesneski for a big bid, because you're really not going to want to start him against the Braves, right? Okay. What are the Tigers doing in the 9th inning? We talked recently about the Royals bullpen. We talked recently about the Brewers bullpen. That was this week here on the show. What about the Tigers? Well, Jason Foley's been great. He's been fantastic. He's taken over the 9th inning for the Tigers. I said Alex Lang over Foley. I said get them both if you can. But I was a Lang guy over Foley. That has been incorrect and wrong for the first 7 weeks of the season. But here we go. Yesterday, the Tigers lost in extra innings. Alex Lang took the loss. It was the 10th inning. He has a stupid runner on second base, the dumbest idea ever. So anyway, he picks up the loss. But here's the oddity about that. It's how the pitchers were utilized in the game. Jason Foley pitched the 7th inning. Joey Wentz pitched the 8th inning. Andrew Chafin was given the 9th inning for the save. He blew the save, went to extra innings. Lang lost the game. Why is the closer pitching the 7th inning in a game you're ahead? Not a tie game. Well, I guess it's better ahead than behind. But, here we go. It was, again, the order was Foley, Wentz, Chafin, Lang. Foley's still the guy, but I've been looking into this a little bit, and the beat writers have been talking about this too. Foley's velocity is like down 2 miles an hour from where it was when the season began. We're only 7 weeks into this thing. That's not good, right? So there is some concern that the stuff is starting to diminish a little bit. And if the stuff is starting to diminish after 12 outings or whatever the hell Foley's thrown, yeah. So there's a little bit of nervousness with the Tigers. They're trying to figure this thing out. Foley is still the guy in the 9th inning. I'm not panicking or anything like that. Again, Lang lost, though it was the inherited runner. Chafin blew the game, so it's not like there's being overt pressure put on Foley. But keep an eye on him. His path to saves in the 9th inning for the Tigers is not as clear-cut as it was 10 days ago. Let's just put it that way. Reese Olson, his teammate. Look, Reese Olson is someone that I've written about rather favorably for a year now, since the second half of last season, and he popped up in a lot of the articles we wrote in the preseason at fantasyguru.com and the draft guide. He popped up in a lot of those as a guy that you weren't talking about much, but who is pitching better than you probably thought. And he comes into this season, and there's all the hype about Flaherty and Skubal and all the talk about the 9th inning with the Tigers. Reese Olson doesn't really get talked about, and we're 7 starts in, and the numbers are good. And if you look at this year and last year, and you pull back and say, here, what has he done for his 28 outings as a big leaguer, covering 143 innings? See a whip of 1.12. It's really good. His ERA is 3.6. It's really good. You look at his, Sierra and his xFIP, and they're both 4.05 and 3.94. So they're saying the ERA is a little low, but yay. If he's going to actually be a guy with an ERA of 3.9 and a whip of 1.12, we can all use that, right? Now he's 5-11, and he's 0-4 this year. Again, not his fault. When you have a 2.5 ERA and a 1.1 whip and you're 0-4, your teammates need to pick you up a little bit. What are we seeing with Olson? Well, he's been extremely fortunate. He's made 7 starts and allowed 0 home runs. That's obviously impossible. Okay, so there's going to be a reckoning there when it comes to the home run. He has greatly increased his ground ball rate from last year. It's up about 12%. So that's really helpful. And that is something that Olson needs, because Olson is not a flamethrower. His 23.6% strikeout rate is a little slightly better than league average. Like, it's basically league average. So when you're not missing bats at a higher level, as we talk about all the time, one of the big keys for you in most instances, having sustained success, is keeping the ball on the ground. He's done that, and he's done that better than he did it last year. I've been impressed again with Olson. The stuff isn't there for him to dominate. The stuff isn't there for him to be the full guy we're seeing right now. I could say the same thing about Javier Assad, though, with the Cubs, right? Sometimes these guys sneak through and they have better years than you think. Olson, again, qualifies barely for a lot of the stuff I did in the preseason about, ranking here and ranking there and this matrix. And I barely qualified, but he was in there. And he's continued to pitch well and effectively here for the Tigers, including that effort yesterday. And his last 5 outings, it's been 5 innings every time. So not giving you depth per se, but going deep enough to qualify for victories and pitching well for the Tigers. So he could be on the waivers too. Not a bad game name to look at all. Okay, let's see. Kyle Bradish, again, another strong effort. That's 2 in a row for him coming back from the arm issue. It looks like Bradish is going to be okay. And that's, well, I don't know if I should say that. He's been very good. He had 9 strikeouts yesterday in 5 innings. He's been very good. The question with him is length, right? Because he had the arm issue. We talked about it here on the show repeatedly, wrote about it in articles over at fantasyguru.com, changed the rankings, trying to figure this all out. He's looked really sharp his 2 outings with the big league team. Now the question is, can he roll the rest of the season? At this point, we're feeling good about it. And you have to think that the Orioles made the right decision here because they haven't had that setback. With a lot of other guys have that setback, right? So good news there with Kyle Bradish. And it looks like Kyle Bradish is, going to be someone that we can count on. And that's great news. Craig Kimbrel struggled again yesterday. Now, the good news or bad news, depending upon who you have on your fantasy squad, the good news is the team came out after the game and said, Kimbrel is still our closer. We got to figure this out. It's bad news if you own Yennier Cano, because Yennier Cano is definitely pitching better than Craig Kimbrel right now. But they talked about after the game, and this is something you and I have discussed here on the show a lot, that one of the keys to working the ninth inning is having worked the ninth inning before. It's really stupid because until you get the opportunity, but once you get the opportunity and you have success in the opportunity, which Kimbrel has had oodles of in his career, moving up the all-time saves chart with almost every save nowadays, because of that history, he's going to get opportunities. So he is still the guy right now. That is not to say that Yainer Cano won't take over. That is not to say this won't become a bullpen by committee approach, at least in the short term. It's not even to say that Kimbrel will get demoted at some point here in the short term. But as I said, the team's sticking with him as their closer right now. History says he'll be fine. He'll eventually figure this out. History also says, especially the last few years, that he goes through these patches like this. It's just how it goes. He loses control. He becomes very much not an easy at bat, but an easier at bat, especially since he's really throwing 2 pitches. And batters have success for a while. He tweaks at something here or there. He gets back into his groove, and then he's good again. So that's the whole Craig Kimbrel experience. And that's just where we're at right now. Mitchell Parker with the Nationals, again, a guy that through 5 starts, which is a tiny sample size, I've been wrong about. Now it's 5 starts, and the season's very long, and we'll see. But he has not allowed more than 3 runs in any outing. He's gone 5 innings in 4 of his 5 outings. He did allow a couple of home runs yesterday against those Orioles, but those were the only runs he allowed in 5 innings of work. If we pull back and look at how things line up, he's done an excellent job throwing strikes. His walk rate is under 5%. He has not missed bats, which is part of the profile that we talked about when he was promoted. 21% strikeout rate is well below the league average. 25.5 CSWs below league average. 9.6 swing strike rate below league average. He's not a strikeout guy. So there's going to be a lot of pressure for him to keep up his 67% first pitch strike rate, which is a very good number. That's gone a long way toward limiting his walk total because he's ahead 0-1 an awful lot, 2/3 of the time. We start looking a little bit deeper at the profile here, and he gets enough ground balls and he's missed the barrel of the bat enough that there's nothing overtly dangerous that we see here. At the same time, the xFIP, the Sierra, the expected ERA are all 1/2 to 3/4 a run higher than the mark right now. In fact, let's see here, the Sierra is a full run higher than his ERA right now, which I think speaks more to what I was just talking about, that Parker's going to have to hunt for it. And he's in the Assad, Reese Olson zone in some respects, more Assad than Olson. Olson misses a little bit more bats. But Parker's more of a guy that, he's getting it done right now. And it's good to have an effort like that against the Orioles, who are a dangerous team, of course. But I do still have concerns about his long-term viability, though, again, through 5 outings, tip of the cap, he's done an excellent job. On the offensive side of things, wanted to note, and this is not something we talk about a lot, but, it's one of those players that who started slowly, who has a lot of success this season, or in his career, and has had no success this season. It's Alex Bregman. And Alex Bregman has been, to be frank, a disaster. He basically hit fourth or second, mostly fourth, mostly cleanup, for the entirety of the season. He was finally dropped to 6th in the order last night. And while you want to look at history, and you should with Alex Bregman, and say, look, this is one of the more consistent offensive performers at third base in all of baseball. We're 33 games in for him, and he's hitting 189. So if we break him down, his walk rate is down a bit. It's still a solid number, but it's down a bit. The strikeout rate's the same as always. So his 0.8 walk to strikeout ratio does not signal that doom and gloom by any means. It's still an impressive number. His O swing, which is the amount of pitches he swings at outside the strike zone, would be a 7-year high. It's still 21%, which is not a high number at all. It's not even close to the league average. So he's not really expanding the strike zone here. So there's nothing overtly to worry about saying that he's expanding the strike zone, that he's panicking, that he's swinging and flailing. That's not what's happening. His swinging strike rate, again, is 4.5%, which is actually would be the best number in 6 seasons. So the real question is, what is happening when he's hitting the baseball? So let's look at that. When he's putting the ball in play, there's not much happening. His ground ball to fly ball ratio is almost dead on his career number. So that hasn't changed. His launch angle is up, and that's a concern. He's been in that 17%, 18% range. It's up to 20%. Not significant, but not what you want to see with Alex Bregman, right? His 34% hard hit rate is down, but it's only 3% off his career mark, not down significantly. The exit velocity is down about 2 miles an hour, and that is a little bit of a concern. And part of the reason for that is the launch angle, right? You're lofting more balls, they're not hit as hard. I still have to say that he'll get this swing back in line and figure this out, but there are shades of Paul Goldschmidt going on here. Different because Bregman's much younger, and I don't think he's at that point of his career. But both these guys are just struggling. And in the case of Bregman, I would put his rebound potential higher than that of Goldschmidt. I think that Bregman, who I know a lot of you have on rosters and are very disappointed with, maybe you consider dropping him, maybe you have dropped him, maybe he's been dropped in your league. I mean, it's still the Astros, and they have stunk together, but when Alvarez starts hitting, they've had Pena hit, they've had Tucker hit, they've had Altuve hit. When Alvarez starts hitting, if Bregman starts to pick things up, all of a sudden things look really good really quickly. So Bregman, in my opinion, should not be on the waiver wire. I'm not saying you have to keep him in your starting lineup. I'm not saying that right now. But he needs to be on your roster. So if he's on the waiver wire, change it. He shouldn't be. Nathaniel Lowe is back. If you're looking for a little boost at the corner infield spot, he's probably been picked up now because he's been so hot since his return for the Rangers. But he's been great. He's played 18 games, batting .330, got a .440 on base percentage, and a .450 slugging percentage. He's actually almost got as many walks as strikeouts. It's very close to .9 there. So he's controlled the strike zone excellently. That number is going to change. The walk rate's going to go down a bit. He's been very fortunate there. The .404 batting average of balls in play. Yeah, come on. The 1.9% barrel rate. He's got one in 18 games. You don't hit .330 with one barrel in 18 games. The batted ball data says .270, right? It doesn't say .330. What's his career batting average? .275. So the truth is that on the surface, things look great for Nathaniel Lowe. If you pull back, this is Nathaniel Lowe. His batting average is going to dip. The run production is going to stay strong. The home run rate will bump up a little bit. But really just the good news is it's a good start. And their lineup too, the Tigers. The Rangers has struggled as well. Evan Carter's been kind of so-so. Langford's hurt now. Adolis Garcia started hot, then he slowed a bit. Corey Seager's never found his stroke this season. Like, they really need Nathaniel Lowe right now to kind of stabilize an offense that's kind of listing a little bit. Once his teammates pick things up, and they obviously will, once that occurs, we're going to see Nathaniel Lowe be a strong run producer, even though his power numbers are likely to be muted for the first base position. Let's talk about some of the injured guys before we bring in Russell Clay. Blake Snell's got an abductor issue. We've talked about him a lot. He's going to make a minor league rehab start on Sunday at San Jose. For those people that don't know, the Giants have the San Jose Giants, which is 40 miles from San Francisco. So it's really nice to have that team, the farm team, just right down the freeway. So he'll go down the freeway and make a start, and they'll see how he goes, how he does. It's very unlikely it's going to be one start and he's back at the big leagues. It'll probably be multiple starts. But good news with with Snell. It looks like, it appears, this is not going to be a long-term injury for him, which is excellent because there were some concerns that I expressed directly, some concerns that this thing would last a little bit longer than we'd like. Hopefully Snell can return with the control piece that has been missing to this point of his Giants career. Bruce Bochy said that Dane Dunning is headed to the injured list with a shoulder issue. And here isn't, there are a lot of teams, and the Rangers being obviously prime for discussion here, that have just struggled with health. I mean, they've got Jacob deGrom coming back. We know that. They've got Max Scherzer coming back from injury. We know that, right? They lost Cody Bradford, who stepped up early in the season when they needed to. He's on the injured list. Nathaniel Eovaldi is hoping to return late next week to the rotation, but he's currently on the injured list. They've got Tyler Mahle, who had Tommy John surgery. So think about this. DeGrom is their 1, Scherzer is their 2, Eovaldi is their 3, Bradford and Mahle is their 4, 5. Like, you can make a plausible case that that's a decent starting rotation. That's their injured list right now. And now we have to add Dane Dunning, who I didn't even mention. So this is going to be one of those scenarios where Jose Urena is probably locked into this rotation in the short term. And he pitched effectively last time out, but this is, I'm going to strongly suggest caution if you're thinking of, Jose Urena. Jose Urena gets blasted. He does not miss bats. When his location is off, he is hammered. You look at his whips the last 4 years, 1.5, 1.6, 1.57, 1.61. He's a journeyman just hanging on. No, don't jump in the Jose Urena train. The Rangers are going to be scrambling a little bit until they get back. Eovaldi in like 10 days, whatever it might be. Jack Leiter pitched again and was bombed again. Jack Leiter's just not ready. A lot of you out there and a lot of people in baseball want it to be this. It's just not. It's not there. He's not ready right now. So, I mean, they might have to lean on him again because they just don't have options. But not good. Don't go Jack Leiter at this moment in time either. Edward Cabrera was placed on the injured list. We talked about it. They said bicep, and then they ended up saying shoulder impingement. And this is, if you were on the fence about what to do with Cabrera, because we talked about bicep issue, it's not a big deal. It's now being called a shoulder issue. That's a bigger deal. So if you've got unlimited IL spots, stash Edward Cabrera. Totally fine to do that. If you have a limited number of IL spots and they're full and you're trying to decide which of these guys do I drop because I need to make a move, I think it's Edward Cabrera. If you don't have IL spots, Edward Cabrera's gone. We just can't. We don't know. It's too uncertain right now. It's too unclear right now. We don't know what's happening. There are other arms that are at least pitching, guys like Mitchell Parker, right, that are coming through. Edward Cabrera is just not the answer right now. He's just not. The Giants placed Jorge Soler, and this sucked because he missed Colorado. Jorge Soler was placed on the injured list with a shoulder issue. Now, the team doesn't appear to be overly concerned that this is a long-term significant issue with him. At the same time, he has struggled this season. He hasn't been what they expected when they signed him. I think Matt Chapman has been down offensively. Lee has not struggled because he's hit the ball well, but he hasn't produced. Giants are searching for it right now. And they're kind of hoping that Helio Ramos, who is promoted, brings a jolt of offense. He was down on the farm, basically, not quite, but basically had a 300, 400, 500 slash. Again, that Hall of Fame level slash line. He had hit 8 home runs, and he is someone that the team has been hoping for a while now would at least establish himself as a full-time big league player. Okay. Maybe not a superstar, but at least a full-time major league player. He's going to get the opportunity now. Obviously, he's going to have a very hard time staying in the lineup when Soler is back, unless there's another injury, right? So Helio Ramos is just someone to add for a very short-term run here. He's an NL-only play in terms of mixed league viability. Very tough to see that right now. So we'll have caution there. But the real issue is Jorge Soler, and where is he at? Is he going to be able to return in 2 weeks? And is he going to drive the baseball? Let's pull him up real quickly and break him down a little bit because we haven't talked about him much. Difficult place to hit in San Francisco. We all know that. Soler powers the baseball, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue for him. He should still be able to hit home runs. His walk rate is 10%, basically league career average. 24% strikeout rate, a couple points below career, right on last year's mark. So that looks totally fine there. What about his batted ball profile? Well, he's another one of these guys like Bregman whose launch angle is way up. Last year was 18%. For his career, it's 16%. This year, it's 23%. Like it's too high, right? And if your goal is to hit 230 with 35 home runs, okay. And again, Soler is that kind of guy. Soler is a power bat. He is not a refined 300 hitter, right? We all know that. But that's a little high. And you see it there. 16%, 16%, 16%, 14%, 18%. You see it in his own line. So he's hitting the ball a little bit high. He's not barreling the baseball. He's had a barrel rate of at least 12% each of the past 5 years. This year, the mark is 6%. So he's not hitting the ball perfectly as well as he has every year the last 5. His hard hit rate would be his lowest mark since 2017. The exit velocity would be his lowest mark ever. All of that is, you look at his, let's look at his hit dispersal. Where is that at? Let me find it. If I learned how to use a chart, I could probably have this information right at my fingertips, right? But that would require me being focused. His pull rate's only 37%, which is way down. His career mark is 47%. So what we have is a guy who's hitting the ball in the air. We have a guy who's not pulling the ball as much as normal, and that's a bad combination. If his launch angle was up and he was yanking everything to his pull field, okay, that's the Isaac Paredes approach, right? You could hit 30 home runs doing that. If you're hitting the ball in the air more and you're pulling it less, especially when your home ballpark is like San Francisco, where it's 421 feet to right center and the weather doesn't help it become an offensive environment, you can have problems. So Jorge Soler, that's kind of a breakdown of where he's at. Let's hope that when he comes back, that things improve. Maybe the shoulder issue that he's been dealing with for a while is part of this too. Maybe he's not capable of pulling the ball as much. Maybe that's leading to this bat dragging through the zone a little bit, which is why the ball's going in the air a bit more. Now, again, we haven't seen an explosion in the strikeout rate or anything, so that mitigates that a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at with Jorge Soler. Doug Montgomery asked a question. How are Heliot's power stuff? Well, again, I think there's a real question with him, Doug, as to how long he's going to hang around. I think when you look at a grading scale, he's probably on a 50, 55. He's looked at as a guy that could hit 25 home runs playing every day at the big league level. If you look at his performance down at AAA, he did have 8 home runs in 30 games this year. He had 12 home runs in 62 games last year. That's 20 home runs in 92 games at AAA. So again, I think that the expectation with him is that he could hit 25 home runs at the big league level. Now, the problem is that, former first-round pick in 2017, he'll be 25 in a couple months. He was expected to have already arrived with the Giants. And again, he's 24 in 8 months. Like, it's not like he's old, but he was expected to have arrived by now with San Francisco. He hasn't. He was expected to have broken through by now. He hasn't. His hit tool, I don't know if it's backed up, but it certainly hasn't progressed. There are a lot of scouts that now say, well, our expectations 3 years ago, it's just not that guy anymore. As he's developed, his hit tool has not developed. So I would say, again, everything comes together. He's hitting 25 home runs with 75 RBIs and batting 250. He's that kind of a player. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But that might even be, at this point in time, to be honest, that might even be aggressive. Like, he may not even be that level of hitter yet. We'll see. But yeah, he's not someone in mixed leagues that I'm rushing to the waiver wire to add. Because again, the news with Soler is not he's going to be missed 6 weeks or anything like that. And you also, when you look at the Giants, they're not going to be afraid to make a move, even if it's a minor move. They might bring in a veteran or something like that to aid them, and that veteran might be thrown in the lineup. You look at their team right now. They've got Austin Slater they can use in the outfield. They got Wilmer Flores, so they can move around in the infield. Right for now at least, Conforto's healthy. So they don't have a huge need. Now again, if Heliot Ramos comes up, and it kills it, they'll find a way. So there's always that piece. But yeah, I don't really envision that happening. He was 2K on DraftKings last night. Yeah, when a guy is free, Doug, he's attractive, especially in a GPP setup. So even if he's a 250, 25, 75 guy, hitting in quarters, price point is a huge differentiator in the DFS space versus the seasonal game. He did go 1 for 4 last night with the run and RBI. So there it was for Heliot Ramos. All right. Well, thanks for listening in today, folks. I guess Russell Clay must have had an issue. Sorry, we're not going to get a chance to talk to him today. I got to kind of jump anyway, so it's not a bad thing that we're cutting this short. I got to go and prep the show because I don't think, again, Jeff Mann's going to be on the Elite Sports Show today, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern time. Got to get that all set up, planned out. Got to get the cash game breakdown finished up as well over at fantasyguru.com. Tyler Beaker is set to join me as a guest in the second hour of the show today on SiriusXM. So we'll talk to him about a lot of football. We'll talk a lot of football at the start of the show. Last half of the show, talk a lot of baseball on SiriusXM. And then tonight, we're going to have Fantasy Bosco. Rich Miletto is going to come on tonight. I think we're going to have a second guest tonight as well, Justin Fenster and myself on the Elite Sports Game Time show. That's from 8 to 10 Eastern. Those guys will be, at least Bosco, and then someone else will be on that show as well. So a lot of talking today. 6 hours yesterday. Looks like I'm going 6 hours again today. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for joining today. Tell a friend, spread the word, all that kind of good stuff. Look for all of our work over at fantasyguru.com. And finally, don't forget, yes, the VIP Platinum package is still available. 50 special, 50 special. 50 special is the promo code. Sign up now at fantasyguru.com and you get everything we do. Every article, every live stream, every podcast, every Discord room, every bit of everything we have at fantasyguru.com. Use that promo code 50 special over at the site. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern here on Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.